Good day, everyone. I'm Flenice Alyanna Cacayan, and today I will be discussing our topic for today, which is critical language pedagogy, or also known as CLP, or the critical pedagogy, or like what I said earlier, CLP. Which is a powerful framework for language teaching rooted in social awareness and justice. So here we could see our source material where I got all the informations and sources for this PPT. Now, before we are going to proceed to our discussion formal, I'm going to present our intended learning outcomes. Now, at the end of the lessons, the students should be able to first describe the main ideas of critical language pedagogy or CLP as discussed in Global Englishes for Language Teaching. Second, explain how critical language pedagogy connects to critical approaches in English language education. And third, identify ways CLP can inform classroom practices in English language teaching. Now, to start and to understand furtherly our lesson for today, we must first understand the critical pedagogy itself. Okay, next. Now, what is critical pedagogy? So basically, critical pedagogy is a philosophy of education that applies the principles of critical theory. Crucially, critical pedagogy views education not as a neutral process, but as a political act, stated by Giroux in 1983. Now, this approach recognizes that knowledge is shaped by social, cultural, and power relations. The main goal is to use our education to promote social justice and empower learners to become more active and engaged in our community. In this sense, it makes these citizens more aware of the social injustices and social issues that are needed to be addressed in their community. On to the next slide. Now, here we have the core concepts of critical language pedagogy. The critical language pedagogy is guided by these three essential core concepts that we should remember. Now, first, we have here emancipation and social justice. Now, first, we have this. Now, this basically means that education here aims to empower learners to challenge the inequalities that are existing in the community. Now, according to Paulo Freire, education is not just about learning facts or basically improving your knowledge in the academic setting. It's about giving learners the tools to recognize and challenge social inequalities and injustices. Now, the goal here is to help students become more aware, more active, and engaged in their community, not to transform society towards fairness and equality. Now, next, moving on, we have here the second one, which is positionality. No, we have here the proponent, which is Susan Benesch in 2001. Now, CLP acknowledges that learners bring diverse backgrounds to the classroom. Factors such as class, race, and gender and ethnicity influence learning and identity. Now, recognizing these differences shapes how students experience learning and how they understand the world, which is vital for creating inclusive and socially aware education. Third one, we have here opposition to exploitative systems. Now, the third concept, which is proposed by Brookfield 2003, basically means that CLP seeks to challenge and reorganize unfair social, political, and economic structures that create and maintain inequalities. Now, it encourages both learners and educators to reorganize these unfair structures that are existing in our community and actively work towards transforming them into more than just an equitable systems that support all learners. Moving on to the next slide. Why critical language pedagogy matters. So, first, it promotes social justice and emancipation in which people or the citizens in the community are more aware because they know the current or the relevant issues that are existing in the community right now. Excuse me. Second, develops active and critically aware citizens. Now, I do believe that a community is much better, or the community would improve if the citizens or the people itself in the community are more aware of the ongoing problems that the community should um, work together or collaborate in order for them to solve these kind of problems. Lastly, it prepares learners to question and transform social realities. Moving on to the next slide. Now, we have here the implications for teachers and learners. So, what does critical language pedagogy look like in practice? It has clear implications for both teachers and learners in the English language classroom. Now, first, we have here for teachers. Now, it adopts a critical stance toward teaching materials and methods. Second, encourage students to question and reflect on power dynamics in language use. Third, create inclusive classrooms that respect diverse identities, cultures, and experiences of these students. Lastly, use real world examples to connect language learning with social justice issues. Now, moving on to the learners. Now, for learners, the role shifts from passive receiver to active participant because the learners are now encouraged to critically analyze language and its social impact. Next, develop awareness of how language can both empower and marginalize. And lastly, use their language skills to challenge inequalities and contribute to social change. Now, finally, moving on to the conclusion of this lesson or the key points. Now, in summary, critical language pedagogy teaches us that language education is fundamentally a political act shaping social justice. It is essential to recognize how learners' identities influence their learning and to actively change unequal power in language and society. Now, ultimately, CLP or the critical language pedagogy empowers learners to actively reflect on and question dominant language norms. So, that is all for my lesson. I hope you gained a lot of insights and expanded your knowledge and horizons. That's all. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you. Bye.